She ordered an Uber at 2 a.m. after her shift ended. The driver looked normal, talked normal, but when she checked the app halfway through the ride, it still showed looking for driver. So who was driving the car? Emma Collins swiped her badge and stepped out of the hospital where she worked night shifts as a nursing assistant. October nights in the city were getting colder, and her breath formed small clouds as she pulled out her phone. 2:17 a.m. The buses had stopped running hours ago, and her beat-up Honda was still in the shop after last week's breakdown. Uber it is, she muttered, opening the familiar app. The request was simple: University Hospital to 847, Maple Street, Apartment 3B. Estimated time, 12 minutes. Cost, $8.50. Your driver Miguel will arrive in 3 minutes. Blue Honda Civic, license plate GHJ 7429. What Emma didn't know was that Miguel had stopped driving 3 hours earlier. The blue Honda pulled up exactly on time. The driver was a middle-aged Hispanic man with kind eyes and a tired smile, exactly what Emma expected from someone working the overnight shift. "Emma," he asked, rolling down the window. "That's me," she said, climbing into the back seat. The car smelled like vanilla air freshener and had the typical Uber setup: phone mount, charger cables, bottled water. "Long night at the hospital?" Miguel asked, pulling away from the curb. "Yeah, but good tips tonight. Halloween weekend brings out the crazies." Emma settled back, scrolling through her phone to check her bank balance. The driver chuckled. "Tell me about it. I've seen some strange stuff driving nights in this city." Emma barely paid attention as they drove through familiar streets. She was exhausted and grateful to be heading home to her warm bed. But 5 minutes into the ride, Emma noticed something that made her blood run cold. Her phone buzzed with a notification from the Uber app: "Still looking for your driver. We're having trouble connecting you with Miguel. Please wait while we find you a ride." Emma stared at the screen, confusion creeping in. She looked up at the driver, who was humming softly and seemed completely normal. Excuse me," she said carefully. "I'm getting a weird notification. Can you confirm you're Miguel, my Uber driver?" The man glanced in the rearview mirror, his kind eyes meeting hers. "Of course, Emma. Miguel Vasquez, 5-star rating, been driving for Uber for 3 years." That should have been reassuring. But Emma's phone was now showing a different message: "Your driver Miguel V. is currently offline and unavailable. Last active, 11:42 p.m. Emma was about to discover that some rides have no destination. "Can you pull over for a second?" Emma asked, her voice staying carefully calm. "I need to check something on my phone." "Sure thing," Miguel said, but instead of slowing down, he turned onto a street Emma didn't recognize. "Wait, this isn't the way to Maple Street," she said, looking out the window at unfamiliar buildings. "Just avoiding some construction," Miguel replied smoothly. "Don't worry, I know a shortcut." But Emma's GPS showed they were heading away from her neighborhood, into an area marked only as Industrial District on her map. An area she'd never seen before despite living in the city for 4 years. She tried calling the real Miguel through the app, but the call went straight to voicemail. "Hey, this is Miguel. If you're calling about a ride, I'm done for the night. Emergency only." And that's when Emma noticed the other phones. As Miguel took another turn down a deserted road, Emma's eyes adjusted to the dim interior. Under the passenger seat, partially hidden, was the corner of what looked like another phone. A pink case with a cracked screen. "Miguel, whose phone is that?" "What phone?" he asked, but his eyes in the mirror had changed. Still kind, but now somehow predatory. Emma bent down carefully and pulled out the device. The lock screen showed 47 missed calls from Mom Redheart and dozens of texts. "Jessica, where are you? Please call me back. The police are looking for you." The timestamp on the messages was from 6 months ago. "Miguel," Emma said, her voice shaking now, "whose phone is this?" "I think you should put that back, Emma." But Jessica's phone was just the beginning of what Emma would find. With trembling fingers, Emma reached further under the seat. Another phone. This one in a sports-themed case, the lock screen showing a photo of a young man with his football team. Tyler Martinez, missing since March 15th, the emergency contact information read. Miguel, I want to get out. Right now. I'm afraid that's not possible, Emma. We're almost there. Almost where? This isn't my address. Miguel's reflection smiled in the rearview mirror, and Emma noticed something that made her stomach drop. His reflection was slightly delayed, like a bad video call connection. Miguel, what are you? The answer would reveal a truth more terrifying than Emma could imagine. I'm exactly what I appear to be, Miguel said calmly as the car turned into what looked like an abandoned parking garage. I'm an Uber driver. I pick up passengers who request rides. I take them where they need to go. But the app says you're offline. The app only sees one dimension, Emma. I operate in the spaces between. The rides that fall through the cracks. The passengers who disappear in transit. The garage was filled with dozens of cars, all different makes and models, but all showing Uber decals. And all empty, like a graveyard of abandoned rides. You see, sometimes people order rides at the exact moment something traumatic happens. A breakup, a death in the family, getting fired, losing hope. The app glitches, and instead of connecting them with regular drivers, it connects them with me. Emma was about to learn the true purpose of these impossible rides. Miguel parked among the other vehicles and turned to face Emma directly for the first time. He looked normal, tired, middle-aged, wearing a standard polo shirt and khakis. But his eyes held depths that seemed far older than his face. I don't hurt people, Emma. I help them transition. Some passengers aren't ready to face where their real lives are heading. They need time in between. A space to process. Transition to what? To whatever comes next. Some people ride with me for days, some for months. Time works differently here. When they're ready to face reality, I take them back to their pickup location. To them, only minutes have passed. Emma looked around at the dozens of cars. How many people are you helping? Currently? About 60. Jessica from your phone there, she's been riding for 6 months, working through some family trauma. Tyler's been with me since his football injury ended his scholarship dreams. But Emma was different from the other passengers, and Miguel was about to find out why. The thing is, Miguel continued, most people who end up in my car are running from something. Avoiding reality. But you're not running, are you, Emma? Emma thought about her life. Working night shifts to pay for school, taking care of her sick grandmother, maintaining a 3.8 GPA while most of her friends partied. She wasn't running from anything. No, she said firmly. I'm not. That's what I thought. Which means this is a mistake. You weren't supposed to be able to get into my car. Miguel's calm demeanor cracked slightly, and for the first time, he looked concerned. The system doesn't make mistakes, he muttered, checking something on a device Emma hadn't noticed before. But your profile, it says you requested a ride to anywhere but here. That's impossible. You requested Maple Street. What happened next would prove that sometimes the system does make mistakes, and those mistakes have consequences. Emma pulled out her phone and opened her Uber history. Her last ride request clearly showed 847, Maple Street as the destination. But as she watched, the text began to flicker and change. 847, Maple Street became anywhere but here. Home became away from everything. Safe arrival became final destination. What's happening to my phone? Miguel was frantically checking his device. Someone's hacking the system. Changing ride requests in real time. Emma, you need to get out of this car right now. Why? What's wrong? Because whoever's doing this isn't trying to help people transition. They're trying to collect specific individuals. And according to this, you're number 61 on a very particular list. But getting out would prove more complicated than either of them expected. Emma grabbed the door handle and pulled. Nothing happened. She tried the window controls, the locks, even the emergency release. The car had become a prison. "Miguel, the doors won't open." "That's not possible. My cars aren't equipped with locks." Miguel tried his own door and found the same problem. "Someone's overriding my system." Outside the car, the garage began to change. The other vehicles faded like mirages, replaced by a vast, empty space that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. "Where are we?" Emma whispered. "Nowhere," Miguel said grimly. "We're in nowhere. And whoever's controlling this wants us to stay here permanently." Emma's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Welcome to the collection, Emma. You have something we need." The truth about why Emma was targeted would change everything she thought she knew about herself. "What do they mean, I have something they need?" Emma asked, showing Miguel the message. Miguel studied her carefully. "Emma, what's your major in college?" "Psychology, with a focus on consciousness studies." "Why? And what's your senior thesis about?" Emma hesitated. Her research was pretty obscure, even within her field. "I'm studying cases of people who claim to remember alternate versions of their lives. Parallel universe memories, basically." Miguel's face went pale. "How many cases have you documented?" "About 200 verified accounts. People who remember different childhoods, different families, different life paths. Most psychologists dismiss it as false memory syndrome, but the details are too consistent across unrelated subjects." "Emma," Miguel said quietly, "I think you've been documenting my passengers." And that's when Emma realized her research had attracted attention from something beyond human understanding. The empty space around them began to fill with figures. Not solid people, but translucent forms that Emma somehow recognized from her research interviews. "Professor Chen," she breathed, seeing one of her subjects. "But you're here. You're real." The ghostly figure of her research subject nodded sadly. "Emma, your work is bridging dimensions. Every interview you conduct, every case you document, you're making the barriers thinner." "I don't understand." "These people aren't remembering alternate lives," Miguel explained. "They're remembering lives they actually lived in parallel dimensions. And your research is the first scientific documentation of interdimensional bleeding." Another figure approached Jessica, the girl whose phone Emma had found. "Emma, they need your research to control the bleeding," Jessica said. "To decide which realities survive and which ones don't." But Emma's research contained something even more dangerous than interdimensional evidence. Emma's laptop, which she always carried for late-night research sessions, suddenly powered on by itself in her backpack. The screen displayed files she'd never created. "Emma Collins," she read aloud. "Unique case, subject demonstrates natural ability to perceive multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. Shows signs of existing in 3.7 parallel realities concurrently." "What does that mean?" she asked Miguel, though part of her was beginning to understand. "It means you're not just studying people who remember other lives," Miguel said. "You are someone who's living other lives. Right now. In this moment, there are at least 3 other versions of you making different choices in parallel worlds." The text on her screen continued. "Subject must be contained before achieving full consciousness of her multidimensional nature. Risk of reality cascade if subject learns to navigate between dimensions voluntarily." Emma was about to discover the true power she'd been unconsciously developing. "Think, Emma," Miguel urged. "Haven't you ever had moments where you remembered doing something you never actually did? Where you knew information you'd never learned?" Emma's mind raced. The research interview she'd somehow conducted perfectly despite never meeting the subject before. The psychology exam where she'd written answers about theories she'd never studied. The way she sometimes knew exactly what people were going to say. "Oh my God," she whispered. "I've been accessing memories from other versions of myself." "And if you learn to do it consciously," Miguel said, "you could potentially travel between dimensions, change outcomes, alter reality on a massive scale." The space around them began to shift and change. Emma could see flashes of other realities, versions where she'd made different choices, studied different subjects, lived different lives. "That's why they want to collect you," Jessica said sadly. "To prevent you from becoming something they can't control." But Emma had an advantage her captors hadn't counted on. As the collection process began, strange machinery materializing around them, Emma closed her eyes and focused on the sensation she'd felt during her best research interviews. The moment when she seemed to connect with her subjects on an impossible level. Suddenly, she could feel them. 3 other versions of herself, making choices in parallel moments. Emma, who became a doctor, currently performing emergency surgery. Emma, who joined the military, trained in tactical escape procedures. Emma, who studied computer science, expert in system hacking. "Miguel," she said, opening her eyes with new determination, "how do your cars connect to the Uber system?" "Through quantum entanglement with the app's server structure." "Why?" "Because one of my other selves knows how to hack quantum networks." What happened next broke every rule of reality the collectors thought they understood. Emma's consciousness split across 4 realities simultaneously. Her doctor self provided knowledge about human anatomy and pressure points. Her military self supplied tactical awareness and escape strategies. Her programmer self accessed the quantum network binding Miguel's system. In this reality, Emma's hands moved with skills she'd never learned, typing commands on Miguel's device that she shouldn't have been able to understand. "Incredible," Miguel breathed. "You're actively pulling knowledge from your parallel selves." "Not just knowledge," Emma said as the car's doors clicked open. "Skills, memories, even personality traits. I can be whoever I need to be." The collection machinery around them began to malfunction as Emma's programmer self introduced viruses into the interdimensional capture system. "Emma, they won't let you leave now," Jessica warned. "You're too dangerous to them." But Emma had already made a decision that would save everyone. At a cost she hadn't considered. "Miguel, how many passengers are currently in your system?" 63, including Jessica and Tyler." "And you said they're here voluntarily?" "Processing trauma?" "Most of them, yes. But some were collected against their will by whoever's been hijacking my system." Emma made her choice. Instead of just escaping, she accessed the quantum network fully, using knowledge from all her parallel selves simultaneously. "I'm setting everyone free," she announced, her fingers flying over the device. "Every passenger, every trapped soul, everyone who's been collected." "Emma, no!" Miguel protested. "If you release them all at once, the dimensional barriers will collapse completely. Then we'll deal with that when it happens." The release of 63 interdimensional passengers would create a cascade that changed the world forever. Emma hit the execute command. Around them, the empty space filled with confused, disoriented people from different time periods and realities. Jessica materialized fully, solid and real. Tyler appeared, still wearing his football uniform from the night he disappeared. Dozens of others, some from decades past, some from futures that hadn't happened yet. "Where are we?" Jessica asked, looking around at the chaos. "You're free," Emma said, but she could feel something wrong happening to herself. Accessing all her parallel selves simultaneously was tearing her consciousness apart. Miguel helped her stay upright as she began to fade in and out of different realities. "Emma, you need to choose one dimension and anchor yourself, or you'll be lost between worlds forever." But choosing one reality meant abandoning the others, and the versions of herself she'd never get to be. Emma could see her parallel lives clearly now. The doctor saving lives in emergency rooms. The soldier protecting innocent people in war zones. The programmer preventing cyber attacks on hospitals and schools. "I can't choose," she gasped. "Every version of me is helping people. How do I abandon 3 lifetimes of good work?" "You don't abandon them," Miguel said gently. "You carry them with you. The knowledge, the skills, the experiences, they're all yours now." Around them, the released passengers were finding their own ways home across dimensions. Some walked through doorways that led to different decades. Others simply faded away, returning to the moments they'd been taken from. But Emma, Jessica warned before she left, whoever was collecting us won't stop. They'll find another way. And now they know what you can do. Emma's choice would determine not just her fate, but the safety of countless others across multiple realities. Emma closed her eyes and felt the pull of 4 different lives. She could stay fractured between dimensions, helping people across multiple realities but never fully existing in any of them. Or she could consolidate into one reality, keeping all the knowledge but losing the ability to directly influence the other worlds. There's a third option, Miguel said quietly. What? You could become like me. A guide between dimensions. Help people who get lost in transit, protect them from collectors, maintain the balance. Emma looked around at the now empty space, then at Miguel. You're not really an Uber driver, are you? I was, once. Until I picked up the wrong passenger and learned about the spaces between realities. Someone has to help the lost ones find their way. And if I say yes, you'll save hundreds of people across multiple dimensions. But you'll never be able to live a normal life in any single reality. Emma's decision would echo across dimensions in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Emma thought about her life, working nights to pay for school, taking care of her grandmother, the endless struggle to make ends meet. Then she thought about Jessica, Tyler, and the dozens of others who'd been trapped and terrified. I'll do it, she said. Emma, think about this carefully, Miguel warned. Once you become a guide, there's no going back. You'll exist in the spaces between realities. Your family, your friends, your old life, they'll forget you ever existed. But I'll remember them. You'll remember everything. All your lives, all your choices, all the people you'll save. Emma nodded. Then it's worth it. But becoming a guide required a sacrifice that would test everything Emma believed about identity and existence. The transformation wasn't painful, but it was disorienting. Emma felt herself spreading across multiple realities while simultaneously becoming more focused than she'd ever been. You'll need a vehicle, Miguel said, and suddenly Emma understood. The blue Honda wasn't just a car, it was a quantum vessel, capable of existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. And passengers will find you when they need help. The ones who are truly lost will. People who order rides at their lowest moments, who need time to process trauma, who accidentally slip between realities. You'll be their bridge back to safety. Emma's new Uber account activated automatically on phones across multiple dimensions. To most users, she'd appear as just another driver. But to those who truly needed help, she'd be salvation. But Emma's first passenger would prove that some collections never end. 3 days later, Emma received her first ping. A ride request from someone named Alex Chen, pickup location, the space between midnight and 12:01 a.m. When she arrived at the coordinates, a street corner that existed only during the transition from one day to the next, she found a young man standing alone, looking confused and terrified. Alex, she called out. Are you my Uber? My app's been glitching all night. It keeps showing my ride is currently in another dimension. Emma smiled sadly. I'm your ride, Alex. Get in. As Alex climbed into the passenger seat, Emma noticed something in her rearview mirror that made her blood run cold. Another car was following them. A black sedan with government plates. Alex, she said carefully, how long have you been standing on that corner? About 10 minutes. Why? Emma checked her interdimensional GPS. Alex had been standing there for 3 weeks, experiencing the same 10 minutes in a loop, while something systematically erased his existence from his original reality. Emma was about to discover that becoming a guide had made her a target for forces far more dangerous than simple collectors. Alex, I need you to trust me, Emma said, taking a route through streets that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Someone's been hunting people like you. People who glitch between realities. People like me? You've been having strange dreams lately, haven't you? Dreams where you live different lives, make different choices. Alex's eyes widened. How did you know that? Because you're developing the same ability I have. And there are people who want to weaponize that ability. In her mirrors, Emma could see the black sedan was gaining on them. But these weren't regular government agents. Their car was moving through dimensions just like hers, and their equipment was far more advanced than anything she'd seen before. "Emma," her radio crackled with Miguel's voice, "you've got company. These aren't the usual collectors. These are the architects." "Who are the architects?" "The people who built the system I've been working within. They created the interdimensional network to control reality bleeding. And they don't appreciate freelance guides." The chase that followed would take place across 17 different versions of the same city. Emma floored the accelerator, and her Honda began shifting between realities rapidly. One moment they were driving through the modern city, the next through a version where the skyline was completely different, then through one where the streets were still cobblestone. "This is insane," Alex breathed, watching the world change outside his window. "Alex, I need to get you to safety, but I need to know what makes you special." "Why would they want you specifically?" I think I can change things that already happened. Small things. Like, if I concentrate really hard, I can make it so I said something different in a conversation that already ended." Emma's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Alex wasn't just interdimensionally aware, he could actually alter past events across realities. "That's why they want you," she realized. With your ability and their technology, they could rewrite history across multiple dimensions. But Alex's power came with a secret that would turn the hunt into something personal. "Emma," Alex said quietly, "there's something else. In one of my dreams or whatever they are. I saw you. You were my sister." Emma's concentration nearly faltered, causing the car to flicker between dimensions. "That's impossible. I don't have a brother. In that reality, our parents died when we were kids. You became a nurse to help people like them. I became a programmer to prevent the kind of system failures that killed them." Emma's mind reeled. In how many realities were she and Alex connected? How many versions of her life involved protecting him? "The architects," Alex continued, "in that dimension, they collected you first. I've been trying to change that outcome across multiple realities." "You mean?" "I've been altering past events to lead you to become a guide. To give you the power to save yourself, and me, and everyone else they're hunting." Emma was about to learn that her entire journey had been orchestrated by a brother she'd never known she had. The black sedan was closing in, but Emma had an idea. If Alex could alter past events, and she could access multiple realities simultaneously, maybe they could change the entire situation. "Alex, can you change what happened 3 days ago? When I first became a guide?" "Maybe." "What do you want me to change?" "Change it so I asked Miguel how to contact other guides. Give us backup." Alex closed his eyes, concentrating. Emma felt reality ripple around them like water. Suddenly, her phone lit up with messages from other guides around the world. Miguel hadn't been alone, there were dozens of them, helping lost souls transition safely. "Emma, this is Luna from Los Angeles. Miguel told us about the architects. We're converging on your location. David from London here. We've been tracking the architect vehicles. You've got 7 of them surrounding your position. But the rescue would require Emma and Alex to make a choice that would separate them across dimensions forever." The interdimensional chase culminated on a bridge that existed in all realities simultaneously. Behind them, 7 black sedans full of architects. Ahead of them, a roadblock of more government vehicles. "Emma," Alex said, "I can change this. I can alter the past so the architects never found either of us. But if I do, you'll lose your guide abilities. You'll go back to being a regular college student. And you? I'll be scattered across dimensions, using my power to protect other people like us. We'll never meet in any reality." Emma looked at the roadblock ahead, then at Alex. In just a few days, he'd become the brother she'd never known she'd always wanted. "There has to be another way." "There is," Alex said sadly. "I can change it so we were never related in any dimension. The architects would lose interest in both of us. But we'd lose our connection completely. Emma's choice would determine whether love or power was stronger than interdimensional forces. "No," Emma said firmly. "I won't let you sacrifice yourself for our connection." Instead of choosing Alex's options, Emma did something unprecedented. She opened her consciousness to all her parallel selves simultaneously and called out across dimensions to every version of Alex in every reality. The response was immediate. Car after car began materializing on the bridge, dozens of Emma and Alex from different dimensions, all driving toward the roadblock together. "What are you doing?" Alex asked in amazement. "Showing them that some things are more powerful than their control systems," Emma said. "Love, family, the choice to help others, these exist in every dimension." The architects' vehicles began to falter as their reality became overcrowded with parallel versions of the same people. The interdimensional convergence would have consequences that reached far beyond a single bridge. The bridge became a meeting point for versions of Emma and Alex from hundreds of realities. Some where they were siblings, some where they were strangers, some where they'd never met at all. But in every reality, they'd made the same choice to help people caught between dimensions. "This is impossible," crackled a voice from the architect vehicles. "You're destabilizing the entire multidimensional matrix." "Good," Emma replied, speaking for all her versions simultaneously. "Your system was broken anyway." The architect's leader, a woman in an expensive suit, emerged from the lead vehicle. "You don't understand the consequences of what you're doing. If the barriers between dimensions collapse completely, reality as we know it will cease to exist." "Reality as you know it," Alex corrected, his voices harmonizing across dimensions. "We're not destroying reality. We're expanding it." But the architects had one final card to play that would force Emma to confront the ultimate cost of interdimensional freedom. "Very well," the architect leader said, pulling out a device that looked like a modified smartphone. "If you won't be collected willingly, we'll simply delete the dimensions you exist in." The device activated, and Emma watched in horror as several of her parallel selves began to flicker and fade. Entire realities were being erased, along with everyone in them. "Stop," she screamed. "You're killing billions of people." "Parallel people," the woman corrected coldly. "Echoes. Copies. Only one reality is meant to exist, the one we control." Emma felt dimensions collapsing around her. Versions of herself winking out of existence, taking their universes with them. "Alex, can you reverse this?" "Not without destroying my own consciousness across all dimensions," he replied sadly. "I'd have to sacrifice every version of myself to restore what they're erasing." Emma faced an impossible choice: save the multiverse or save her brother. "There's another way," Miguel's voice came through her radio. "Emma, you've been thinking too small. You're not just connected to your parallel selves. You're connected to every consciousness that's ever used the interdimensional transit system." "What do you mean?" "Every passenger I've ever helped, every person who's traveled between realities, every soul that's been collected or freed, you have a connection to all of them through your research." Emma suddenly understood. Her psychology thesis hadn't just documented interdimensional bleeding, it had created a network linking every consciousness that existed between realities. "I can call them all," she breathed. "All of them," Miguel confirmed. "Every lost soul, every guided passenger, every person who's ever existed in the spaces between. They're all part of your research network now." What Emma summoned next would rewrite the rules of existence itself. Emma opened her mind not just to her parallel selves, but to every consciousness she'd ever documented, interviewed, or helped. The response was overwhelming. Thousands of souls across hundreds of dimensions answered her call. People from different time periods, different realities, different possibilities, all connected through Emma's research into interdimensional consciousness. They materialized on the bridge like an army of the lost and found. Ancient souls who'd been wandering between realities for centuries. Future people who'd developed interdimensional travel naturally. Alternative history figures from realities where different choices had been made. "This is your network," Miguel said in amazement. "Everyone who's ever existed in the spaces between." The architect leader stared at the impossible gathering. This wasn't supposed to be possible." "Your mistake," Emma said, her voice carrying the authority of thousands of consciousness experiences, "was thinking you could control something as fundamental as human connection. The final confrontation would establish new rules for interdimensional existence." The architect's deletion device was overwhelmed. "How do you erase realities when thousands of consciousness networks are actively maintaining them?" "You're destabilizing everything," the leader protested. "Without control systems, realities will bleed into each other chaotically." "Then we'll create new systems," Emma replied. "Democratic ones. Where people choose their own paths between dimensions instead of being controlled or collected." Alex stepped forward, his voice harmonizing across realities. "I can change the past so that interdimensional travel developed naturally, without your control structures. And I can document the new system," Emma added, "create guides and safety protocols that actually help people instead of trapping them." The thousands of gathered souls began to glow with shared purpose. Together, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of multidimensional existence. But power on this scale always comes with unexpected responsibilities. As the old architect system crumbled, Emma found herself at the center of a new network. Not controlling it, but facilitating it. Helping people navigate between realities safely, documenting new forms of consciousness, protecting travelers from those who would exploit interdimensional abilities. "So what happens now?" Alex asked as the bridge returned to normal and the architects retreated to plan new strategies. "Now we work," Emma said, looking at her phone which was buzzing with ride requests from across multiple dimensions. "We help people, we protect travelers, and we make sure no one else gets lost in the spaces between." Miguel handed her a new device, not just for Uber, but for interdimensional guide services. "Welcome to the real job, Emma. Population, infinite across all realities." And if you're wondering whether Emma's still out there, helping lost travelers between dimensions. 6 months later, people started reporting strange Uber experiences. Drivers who seemed to know exactly what they needed to hear. Rides that took just the right amount of time for passengers to process bad news or make important decisions. Cars that sometimes took shortcuts through areas that didn't exist on any map. The reviews were always 5 stars, "Driver was exactly what I needed tonight." But the most common comment was, "Felt like she could see into my soul and knew exactly how to help." Because some Uber drivers aren't just giving you a ride home. They're giving you a ride to wherever you need to be, even if that place exists in another dimension entirely. And if you ever find yourself in an Uber at 2 a.m., feeling lost and alone, and your driver seems to understand exactly what you're going through, check your app. If it shows driver currently in multiple locations, you might be getting the ride of several lifetimes. Asterisk, just remember, when Emma asks where you're really trying to go, tell